Hello, warrior of the Arte de Guerra channel. On the last day of the year, it's interesting to do a brief retrospective on the new weapons that have entered or are entering service and that could radically change the military landscape in the coming years and decades. But before we start, I wanted to tell you that I am Commander Robinson Farinas, a Navy Reserve officer, and this is the Arte de Guerra channel, a platform for military, strategic, and geopolitical analyses conducted by professionals. So if you're new here, subscribe to our channel and give us a like. With that said, let's get to today's video. Well, I think the first weapon we need to highlight is Russia's Oreschnik system. Why do I say this? Because the Oreschnik has managed to produce a psychological impact in the West, comparable to nuclear weapons, even though it is not a nuclear weapon. And what happens? What I find most important about this missile is the fact that there was no preparation for it. Fortunately, for Russia's adversaries, we do not believe they have a large stockpile of these weapons. The Russians themselves admit something along these lines. Given its complexity and cost, we believe that its production will not be, at least initially, on as large a scale as is supposed.
Pelo menos no primeiro momento, tão grande quanto se supõe. Só que nós temos que olhar uma coisa muito importante, né?
However, we have to look at something very important. Russia started with hypersonic missiles. Soon after, China went in that direction. Then you have Iran, which passed it on to the Houthis. Soon, North Korea will present something in this regard. North Korea is also already working on a new ship. We believe that Russia's hand is involved in this. So what we foresee is that soon this Oreschnik system should reach the hands of the Chinese, Iranians, and possibly North Koreans. We cannot forget that, this January, Russia will sign a defense agreement with Iran. So we should believe that a lot of technology transfer, cutting-edge technology, can occur in these agreements, in this alliance, even if not explicit, of this country, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China, partly due to the West's fault as well, which kept pushing, leaving this country on the periphery of the world, and they ended up uniting. So I believe it will happen because if we really analyze the war in Ukraine, Iran passed a lot of technology to Russia. That's the truth. The Russians greatly improved their drones, thanks to the Iranians. We don't know to what extent they also received some ballistic missile technology. We need to remember that Iran is quite advanced in that area. So the tendency of these things is for them to keep worsening, with a large proliferation of these weapon systems in the countries of this implicit alliance. I remember they conduct joint military maneuvers, and I wouldn't be surprised if something similar to the Oreschnik ends up appearing in countries like China, North Korea, and Iran. That's the first case. The other case we need to look at is this new Chinese jet. They're already calling it the J-36. I don't know what the name will be. So it has several innovations. First, its range. One thing I find very similar in this plane, a trend close to Russian planes, is the size of its wing. It's quite interesting. And the fact that it is a 3-engine aircraft. That's rare to see. I don't know if this concept will take hold, but the Chinese are testing something along those lines. It might turn into a trend. Now, I think that maybe I'm talking here with you, but I'm reading some updates I received from the aircraft. I think that perhaps the most important thing about this plane is its data transmission capability, electronic interference, and the sensors it will carry. The war in Ukraine has already proven that the quality of sensors matters a lot, especially in terms of advanced detection or even electronic warfare impulses. I think all of this is very important. China is moving in that direction.
Eu acho que é muito importante. A China está indo nessa direção. E é uma coisa interessante, né? Porque
it's an interesting thing because if everything said about this plane is true, China has outsmarted the United States and Russia. So we need to keep an eye on it. And it's not the only innovation from the Chinese. They also brought a Superdrone. I even want to see if I can make a video about this new Chinese drone this week. The fact is that China has been working hard on improving its military portfolio. The people I saw at a fair some time ago, and I picked up several brochures of Chinese products. We are amazed by their quality and variety. Another thing we can't forget is this new amphibious ship from China, the Type 76, the Sichuan.
Novo navio anfíbio da China aí, né? O Type 76, o Sichuan. Porque além do tamanho dele, o fato do navio.
Why? Besides its size, the fact is that this is the first amphibious ship in history with an electromagnetic catapult. In other words, the Chinese have actually made a mini aircraft carrier. That's the fact here. The ship has amphibious capabilities, it has a dock, etc. It can launch helicopters, maybe some general cargo vessels or vehicle transport, but it is a mini aircraft carrier. Not so mini, right? The size of a Nimitz or São Paulo. So we don't know what China intends with this, but they are greatly expanding their amphibious capabilities. The Chinese Navy as a whole surprises every month.
Ela surpreende a cada mês, né? A gente olha lá, eles crescem praticamente, já falaram, crescem.
We look over there, they practically grow. As has been said, they grow a French Navy per year, and I don't doubt that at all. China has a very large shipbuilding capacity, right? Partly because they took over the market that the Americans abandoned. When they're not building warships, they're building civilian ships. And these ships end up funding military investment. It was a very smart move by the Chinese. But this ship could indicate a trend for China, because if it can launch aircraft, if it can effectively launch jet planes or drones, which seems to be what the Chinese are most interested in, you have a lot of versatility, right?
Você tem uma versatilidade muito grande, né? Ele pode ser usado como porta-aviões quando necessário.
It can be used as an aircraft carrier when necessary to perform all the operations of an aircraft carrier, fleet defense, attacks against land positions, etc., and also to deploy Marines or other troops with amphibious capability. So it's something to watch. Russians and Chinese are advancing a lot. We have to wait and see what might come from the North Koreans. These people are likely to advance significantly in the space race. I believe China will soon flood space with satellites, so we will have a quite complicated military scenario in the coming months. The United States has already started by ordering 145 aircraft jets.
Já começaram fazendo uma encomenda de 145 jatos F-35, tá? Eles aumentaram o portfólio.
F-35, okay? They have expanded their portfolio, meaning they are fearing something in that regard. But I'll leave the article from The Economist for you, which says the following, right? The era of American air superiority is coming to an end. Fortunately for the United States, The Economist always gets its predictions wrong, but it's something to think about, okay? Why? Because actually nowadays, anywhere they go to war, they will face significant opposition from air defenses. And there was that case of the F-18 that was shot down in the Red Sea, and we think that was the work of the Houthis. So, anyway, these are some of the technological innovations that are coming into service in the second half of 2024 and are expected to shine quite a bit in the 2025 scenario. We'll be waiting for that.
No cenário de 2025, a gente vai aguardar isso aí. Então esse foi o nosso último vídeo desse ano.
So this was our last video of the year. Have an excellent 2025. We'll be here next year, working again, as always, for our community. Write to our channel telling us what you thought of these new technological innovations. I'll also leave the article from The Economist. Comment on the article. Tell us where you're speaking from, which state. We want to know more about you. Tell us where you're speaking from, what you think, etc. about these technological innovations, and help us grow by giving your like, sharing. Those who can help with the super sticker or super chat contribute to the growth of our media. And for those who can give via Pix, it's in the video description. Pix is good because it bypasses YouTube's restrictions. And we'll be back in 2025, always with responsibility, commitment, and faith in Brazil, folks. Happy New Year.
Compromisso e fé no Brasil, pessoal. Feliz ano novo.